This is the 3D VIEW-MASTER adventure Look Homeward, Lassie. VIEW-MASTER Reel 1. Picture 1. Forest Service pilot Dave Kirkland laid the plane over on one wing for a glance at the desert below. Glad Lassie and I are flying over that sun-baked wilderness, not walking through it, commented his passenger, forest ranger Corey Stuart. Stroking his collie, he added, "Home will look good to us after the 3-week timber survey, won't it, Lassie?" Suddenly, a voice crackled over the plane's radio. "Forest Service number 3, this is Moorland Field. What is your location?" "Moorland Field, this is Forest Service number 3, answered Dave, adjusting his earphones. "We're about 20 miles south of Saddleback Mountain. What's up?" "Electrical storm over Superstition Mesa. At least 10 strikes reported, possibly 2 smokes. As of now, you are on lightning patrol." "Take over the radio, Corey, and we'd better get into cutes," advised Dave, heading the plane toward the storm. Picture 2. Lassie whimpered softly as bolts of lightning cut through the sky, and the small plane pitched and rolled in the savage crosswinds of the storm. "It's all right, girl," Corey comforted her as he checked for lightning strikes that could turn the tinder-dry brush into a blazing inferno. "No smoke sighted," Corey radioed to Moorland Field. At that moment, a bolt of lightning hit the storm-tossed plane. "Hit by lightning. Engine dead," Corey reported into the mic. "We're bailing out near Little River Canyon." "I'll be right behind you," Dave called as Corey janked open the hatchway. Gathering Lassie in his arms, Corey leaped from the aircraft. As the two plummeted into space, the realized cute blossomed above them. They drifted toward the earth as the plane hit a distant ridge, exploding. Picture 3. Corey, holding Lassie, was unable to maneuver the shroud lines as the winds carried them to a rocky mesa overlooking a river canyon. As he hit the ground, he stumbled and Lassie rolled over the ledge. Picture 4. A violent gust caught the billowing cute, slamming Corey's head against a jagged rock formation. "Lassie," he cried as he fell unconscious among the rocks. Lassie, unable to get her footing, tumbled down the canyon into the river. As she fought to keep afloat, the raging rapids swept her downstream. Picture 5. Dave, landing safely, headed across the mesa where he discovered Corey's prone figure. Quickly he checked his pulse. Covering Corey with his coat, Dave knew his friend must have immediate medical attention. As if in answer to his unspoken thoughts, he heard the search helicopter approaching. "You okay, Dave?" the pilot asked as the blades whirred to a stop. "Yes, but Corey's seriously hurt." The two eased Corey onto the wire basket stretcher as the pilot readied for the takeoff. Dave called, "Lassie." He scanned the surrounding area and the river below, but there was no answer, no sign of movement. "It's unlikely she survived," the pilot said. Dave looked down at Corey. "I know, but if—" "What's more important now is Corey," interrupted the pilot. "If we don't hurry, we're liable to lose him too." Picture 6. Lassie fought her way to the riverbank. The valiant collie clambered over boulders and up the sheer canyon wall. She must reach the mesa. She must reach her master. At last she reached the crest. On the jagged rocks where Corey had landed, she found only an empty chute. Lassie tried to pick up a trail by scent, but it ended with puzzling abruptness. She barked forlornly in the desolate wilderness. Picture 7. Dave, standing by Corey's hospital bed, questioned the doctor with his eyes. "Mr. Stuart came through surgery just fine, Mr. Kirkland." Corey moaned slightly, his voice delirious. "Lassie, lost grip. Lassie." "She was gone when I found him, doctor," Dave explained. "As soon as he's well enough, I'll tell him." VIEW-MASTER Reel 2. Picture 8. Lassie, knowing she must find her way home to Corey, began the long trek across the shimmering desert. Thirsty, she dug at a dry water hole. The desert animals and sun-bleached bones seemed to mock her effort. Darkness turned the land bitter cold. Guided by instinct, the collie stopped only to lick her tender paws. Daybreak found her at the desert's edge, weak from thirst and hunger. Continuing toward the distant foothills, she arrived at a mining town at just before dusk. But it was a ghost town, the buildings vacant and ravaged by time, the water through empty and dry. Suddenly she cocked her ears and looked down the dusty street. There a grizzled prospector was tugging at his burro, the animal so heavily loaded he had fallen to his knees and was braying in protest. "Get up, you lazy critter!" the prospector yelled, viciously lashing the burro's rump. The animal struggled to rise, but the load was too heavy. Again the man wiped the helpless animal. Fangs bared, Lassie rushed to the burro's defense. "Gid," said the prospector, backing away in fright. Lassie barked softly to the burro. Understanding her friendship, the burro tried again, getting to his feet. Picture 9. "Quite a dog, ain't ya?" the prospector said, showing a yellowed, toothy smile. "Betcha the cattle and sheep boys would pay me a pretty penny for ya." Lassie growled and refused to follow the man as he led his burro into the barn. A sly grin crept over the prospector's face as he dipped a pan into the water barrel. "Come on," he called from the doorway. "Betcha'd like a cool drink." Lassie edged toward the man who set the pan down inside the barn. Drinking thirstily, she felt a rope loop over her neck. Before she could attack, the man tied the other end around the barn post and rushed out the door. "Yes, sir," he cackled as he slid the outside bolt. "She'll make me a nice penny at the trading market." Picture 10. Lassie howled in distress, the burro braying in sympathy. Finally, the collie settled down. Rope in mouth, she pulled at it while she rubbed her head against the barn post. Straining with all her might, she felt the loop slowly slide over her head. She tried to force the barn door open, but it would not budge. Again and again she leaped at the high open window, falling short by inches. Her burro friend understood her plight. With well-aimed kicks he shattered the ancient boards of the barn door, letting Lassie streak to her freedom. Outside, the collie stopped and barked for the burro to follow. He brayed softly, resigned to be a man's beast of burden. Lassie barked a thanks just as the prospector stormed from his shack. She bolted through the night, bullets from the enraged prospector's rifle barely missing her. Picture 11. Approaching a railroad track, Lassie ran down its gravel bed until she came to a freight car that had stopped for switching. She trotted to the water barrels alongside the track, hoping for a drink, but they were covered. Weary, the collie climbed onto the barrels. As the wheels of the train started to grind, she leaped into the doorway of an open freight car. Crouched in the far corner were two youths, tired and dirty from their travel. Lassie tensed, then whimpered, sociable, trying to tell them she meant no harm. Steve, the oldest, said, "We're not gonna hurt you. Come over here," invited Scotty. "It's warmer." "Woof!" Lassie barked and joined her new friends. Picture 12. "S'pose she's running away like us," wondered Steve. Lassie, nudging an empty sack, reminded Scotty of his hunger. "Wouldn't one of your mom's pies taste good?" "Turning chicken?" demanded Steve. "No, Scotty winced as a sudden pain stabbed him in the stomach. "I'll be all right," he replied to Steve's concerned questions. Again he winced, then huddled back against the wall. Lassie, alerted by the boy's illness, edged to the open door as the wheels of the train ground to a stop at a station. She watched the station master pick up the mail pouch, then check the cars for unwanted passengers. Lassie barked a warning. "Let's get out of here," Steve cried. They tumbled from the car and raced to the woods, where Scotty fell, holding his side and moaning with pain. "You're burning up," cried Steve in fright. "What'll we do?" Picture 13. Lassie, sensing Scotty's need for help, raced back to the railroad station. She barked once, twice at the station master, begging him to follow her. "Go on, get out of here!" The station master yelled in anger. "You've caused me enough trouble already." Lassie knew she must get the man to follow her. Seeing a small package of mail on the platform, she grabbed it in her mouth. "Come back here!" cried the station master, chasing Lassie as she led him to the two boys. Picture 14. Lassie licked Scotty's face as the angry station master came to a puffing halt. The man's eyes softened as he saw the pain on Scotty's face. "You got appendicitis. Got to get you to a doctor," he said after examining Scotty. "Where do you live, boys?" "Crescent Palm," answered Steve. We've run away." Holding Steve in his arms, the man inquired, "Are you ready to return home?" Scotty nodded. Steve mumbled an ashamed, yes. It was time for Lassie to continue her journey. VIEW-MASTER Reel 3, Picture 15. Lassie stood on a canyon rim overlooking a herd of grazing cattle. Morgan Hart, ranger, was riding his cow pony near the head of the herd. Suddenly, Lassie's hair bristled. Across the canyon, a wolf was making a cautious descent, stalking a straggling calf. Lassie sprinted down the slope, barking wildly, but Morgan was too far away to hear the danger warning. The wolf slipped closer, closer, then raced to the attack. With a frightened bleat, the calf raced toward the herd, causing them to stampede, heading toward Morgan. Picture 16. Spooked by the thundering herd, Morgan's horse reared and threw him. Morgan struggled to his knees, then fell to the ground in the path of the thundering cattle. Lassie dashed in from the side, turning the herd enough to miss the stunned Morgan. A stampeding steer tossed Lassie in the air. Quickly she scrambled to her feet, her fur red with blood from her injured leg. Limping toward Morgan, she barked at the wolf as he slunk over the ridge. "Looks like we both need patching up, girl," Morgan said as he gently inspected the gash on Lassie's leg. "Any idea where she came from?" asked the veterinarian as he bandaged Lassie's leg at Morgan's home. Morgan shook his head. "She's heading someplace, Doc, and I've a hunch nothing will stop her." Doc ran a practiced hand down Lassie's leg. "There you go, girl. Couple of weeks you'll be as good as new." Picture 17. The wolf became bolder during Lassie's day with Morgan. One night the chickens and geese scurried around the barnyard in fright. Morgan, awakened by Lassie's excited barks, grabbed his rifle, firing at the wolf as he fled in the darkness. The next morning, Lassie followed Morgan to the corral. "That's wolves getting hungry coming this close," the ranger said, scanning the hills. "What do you say, girl? Are you well enough to help me track him down?" Picture 18. Lassie, scenting the wolf, dashed into the wilderness ahead of Morgan. She stopped at the base of a boulder, looked up, then bristled. Crouched on the rock above was the wolf. Fangs bared, the two met in mortal combat. Whirling, slashing, and dodging, each sought a death grip at the other's fury throat. Morgan, hearing the wild snarls, spurred his horse to where the two were engaged in the death battle. Picture 19. Dismounting, Morgan aimed his rifle at the wolf once, twice, then fired. Kneeling by Lassie, he checked to be sure the beast was dead. Suddenly, Lassie lifted her head and gave a welcome back to an eagle soaring in the sky. It was her old friend Screech, who answered with a call. Once, long ago, Screech had been hit by a plane and Lassie had fed fish to the injuring birds' eaglets to keep them alive. Now Screech was circling, giving Lassie a call to follow. Lassie, looking from the eagle to Morgan, howled softly. "The time has come, girl," Morgan said sadly. Lassie barked a farewell. "Take care, girl," Morgan called as she loped in the direction taken by the eagle. Lassie safely followed Screech until a canyon blocked her path. As she started down the slope, the ground gave way, almost burying her in the rocks and dirt. Lassie, fighting desperately to get out of the trap, saw 3 coyotes creeping upon her. After such a long journey, she now faced almost certain death. Screech, making a circle in the sky, swooped down and the coyotes fled from her savage attack. Lassie, struggling all the while, loosened the debris and climbed to her feet. Once again she was ready to follow the eagle's course homeward to Corey. Picture 20. "Are you trying to tell me that I'm crazy to think that I can't find Lassie?" demanded Corey of his friend. "No, I'm worried about your leg," Hank answered. "But I guess it won't stop you." Nothing will stop me, Corey answered firmly. That's a lot of territory to cover, Hank said, looking at Corey's map. I'll start here, Corey said, indicating a spot on the map. Then work my way back. Still figure she's heading home. I'm sure that's what Lassie is doing, Corey replied, heading for the car. Good luck, Ranger, Hank said, shaking Corey's hand. Picture 21. Corey tensed as he saw an eagle in the sky, circling and calling, and then, in the distance, he heard a familiar bark. Lassie, he called, afraid to believe. Lassie, Lassie, he cried as the barking collie bounded from the woods into his arms. Lassie, he repeated, all of his love and happiness put in that one word. Lassie, you've come home.